Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
America Open Market, AO Market. The best digital market for humanity is a free, multilingual, borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form. Comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@gmail.com. AO Market, best digital marketplace for humanity.
Welcome to the show today. I am Robert Press, your host. I am a full-time reporter. Here's my New York City press credentials. I do have a co-host who missed it last week, and I don't see him this week. His name is Anthony RIVIECCIO. He says he will be joining the show. And just so everybody knows, any products or candidates who are mentioned on this show is not necessarily endorsed by myself. Just so everybody knows, and that goes for the first commercial that you saw. Now, we have starting tomorrow is early voting. What that means is you have 9 days to go to a selected poll site. And of course, I don't have it because we didn't, well, we won't go into that because they've changed some of them. And I did not get to listen to the Board of Elections. However, what I have are my official Board of Elections ID, media ID. I cannot walk into a poll site with this ID because I need these, which state that I am a official media representative, and this is the Board of Elections say that I can do certain things. Otherwise, I couldn't do them. Now, let's get into the show. Bidenomics. Well, Anthony's not here, so let's see what's happening. Inflation's 8% so far. The dollar is sinking. Your money is getting less. I've lost at least $100,000 in the stock market on the Bob Press Index, according to Anthony. And gas prices are now over $5 a gallon. If and when he comes on, we will continue with Bidenomics. Number 2, Dr. Fauci. Anthony's favorite friend, Dr. Fauci. And this is why Anthony will not get vaccinated. Well, it appears Dr. Fauci, after all his vaccinations, caught COVID. How could that happen? Supposedly, these vaccinations are going to stop that. Now, I myself had COVID in March of 2020. Where's Master Shake? That's a good question. All right. I myself had COVID in March of 2020. I had it for less than 5 days. I got over it quickly, caught it on the New York City subway. I blame Bill de Blasio because I was coming back from a mayoral press conference. So I got rid of it in 5 days. I've been around people. I finally got a vaccination in April of last year. Now, when did I get it? September of last year, pardon me. And you know what? After the second shot, I got sick. I went back to Jacoby Hospital where I got the shot, I went to the hospital figuring I'd get it from a nurse. And what happens? I find out that it's a technician giving the shot. I saw the woman going out to a table, filling up a syringe, then calling me in. No, that doesn't happen. We have it all set. So I, as usual, being the reporter I am, brought the press card out, made a scene, said, you guys poisoned me. And 3 people ran out of there. They didn't want to get their vaccinations. And I found out it's whatever the state gives them, they use for the vaccine. So what you get today, you're not going to get tomorrow. But lo and behold, Dr. Fauci, the great one who says, get your vaccines, that'll protect you from COVID, got COVID. I have not gotten COVID. And as a matter of fact, the former health commissioner, Dr. Chachi, told me that I am immune to COVID now. And Dr. Katz, the head of HHC, who was just reappointed by Mayor Adams, has told me, oh, you're immune and you don't even need the shots. And that's probably why I got sick on that when I got the second shot. Moving along. Word is that, here we go. Okay, here's my co-host. Introduce yourself, Anthony. I spoke about Dr. Fauci getting COVID. I gave a little bit
Robert, first and foremost, let me say to our existing political family, I missed you. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. I started not to come this week because I understand Mr. Press has a future surprise that he hasn't told his co-host about. But I had to get on a little earlier than expected because, you know, you can't keep constantly telling the audience these mistruths. You know, I heard your little story about Bidenomics and you were so wrong. The dollar has never been stronger. So I don't know what you mean by weaker. The dollar has never been stronger. That seems to be one of the biggest trade problems now with our other countries. Yes, the Bob Press Index, of course, has probably had a worse week this week than last week when people were jumping off the roof last week. So at our Financial Focus University show today at 5 p.m., we have a lot to talk about. But, you know, Bob, talking about Bidenomics, I'm going to turn this economic puzzle more into a political conversation. So let's talk about the economic puzzle first, right? So this week, generally speaking, we had inflation go up in two different areas. We had inflation go up on the personal side, and Robert, personal inflation went up 12% annually, not the number that you indicated. Production inflation, which goes more on the supply side, went up on average, and forgive me, I'm just looking at my notes, about 10% a year. So we know on the consumer and on the production side, inflation is now hovering at 10% a year. What does that mean when the retail sales numbers came out this week? It means retail sales went down, right? But consumer spending, believe it or not, is still moderately strong, right? So even with the high levels of inflation and their money being devalued, people are still spending the money. I wonder where the extra money is coming from. Maybe it's coming from their debt. Maybe it's coming from their savings.
The rent they didn't pay.
Excuse me?
The rent they didn't pay.
The rent they didn't pay? Well, that's another conversation because, of course, the Rent Guidelines Board, and from what I hear, New York City Housing Court now has a different interpretation of these situations. So, you know, Bidenomics this week is going to turn out to be a terrible week. As we speak now, with today, the market is going up and down and up and sideways. Well, the week, it looks like the market is going to lose another 5 to 6% this week, just this week alone. But Bob, let me give you and your Bob Press Index a big tip and why you should watch tonight's show. Since January 1, the average person in the markets have lost 15 to 20%, as you've indicated. I don't know about $100,000, but as you indicated, it's about 15 to 20%. Bob, if you watch the show, I'm going to show you in 1 year how you can get all of that money back. Even with the market tanking, I'm going to be able to show you and our audience how you can make the Bob Press Index even again in 1 year and using the same strategy, getting 100% over the course of the next 10 years following. So join us today, ladies and gentlemen, today at 5 p.m., where you don't get this nonsense, you get economics. Okay, Bob, let's start the show.
Well, let's continue with Bidenomics, though, Tony. When you say the dollar is strong, you mean that we have to pay more for imported goods while our goods are less going overseas?
That's one reason.
Okay, so in essence, that's why those foreign cars are going way up in price, because they're all not made here, basically. They're made overseas, correct?
You know, Bob, I said a minute ago that I wanted to turn Bidenomics into a political conversation. Believe it or not, you're starting to do that. What we're seeing in our economy is what I call supply side economics in reverse.
Okay, we just had a caller call me. That's one of the surprises that I had, but we'll have that later because that's part of the later show. Okay, there are a couple of surprises, Anthony, but they're not bad. When we get into politics, I'll discuss them. Let's continue.
I just think it's very inappropriate for us to be having this show and one part of the show not knowing what the other part is doing.
Well,
which is why I wasn't on the show last week, and I'm very concerned about this week because I don't think we should be having a show where it's just surprise, surprise, surprise.
No, Tony.
The ones that are surprised
are
the hosts.
It was something I checked my mailbox this morning that I got that I want to discuss here, and something.
Right, and listen to how you just said it. Again, this is a co-host show. Not a Bob Fresh show, and not even an Anthony RIVIECCIO show. This is a co-host show. But you just said it. I got the email. I decided to check on it. I decided to put it on the show agenda without telling the producer, without telling the co-host. Why? Because I've interpreted it to be, and I'm using your words, a moderate surprise.
Well, let's get into the city council budget then, Anthony. Or do you want to say a word or two about Dr. Fauci? I know he is one of your favorites.
Well, we're going to definitely talk about Dr. Fauci, but let's get to the political conversation in regards to Bidenomics. The political conversation is this. Joe Biden called out the Federal Reserve. He said the Federal Reserve is in charge of inflation. Well, guess what? The Federal Reserve Board said, okay, I'm going to hike it up 75 basis points for a move, Mr. President. And guess what? Now Joe Biden has another problem because there's no doubt that 75 basis points is going to create a recession. It's going to put people out of work. It's going to change the structure of labor in our economy. And guess what? The Federal Reserve Board has no control over those things. None at all. It is now up to our legislative and executive parts of our government to handle that. And I haven't seen anything worthwhile either from Congress or our president to get our economy to grow. So Bidenomics this week has now turned into the political question of the week. What can Joe Biden and Congress do to increase our economy now that we know for sure that the Federal Reserve Board, under the guise of lowering inflation, has pretty much put our economy going towards a recession?
Well, let me just read the letter because it will go into that. Because this is a letter from the DCCC out in Washington. It talks about joining the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, giving money, my opinions, and they have me listed as a Democrat, which I am, but they have me as inactive. Now, these are Democrats who don't know that their own Democrats are inactive or active. I vote in every election, even dog catcher or school board race. So how can I be inactive? All right, they have my representative as Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez. Obviously, they're not up with the new districts and what the judge said, because as of the ruling, my new representative is Richie Torres. It asked me about
this is the answer to the question I just asked.
Wait, it gets better.
Better? Oh
Yeah,
my God, Mr.
they talk
Producer, it
about
might be time for
issues.
me to leave again real soon. Go ahead.
They talk about what issues concern me the most, but none of these concern me. And then, do you believe? And this is carefully worded now, and I know I could see through this. I want to see if you can see through this, Anthony. Do you believe the United States is better off today with a Democratic president, Democratic Senate majority, and Democratic congressional majority than we were when Republicans controlled such chambers and the White House? And it's carefully worded, so I can understand it. You know what I'm talking about?
Robert, let's get to the bottom line. At the end of all of this rigmarole, does it ask you for money?
Yes. Oh, it asks me.
That's what it's all about. I can make I mean, you're talking to a businessman here. You're talking to a 25-year-old financial advisor that runs a business. I can promote anything. I can even promote you. I can promote you to be the next president, God forbid. But, so what are you telling me? It's all about the money. But that still don't answer the question I asked you, which is, Bob, that doesn't answer the question I asked you, which is, what do we do politically to get our economy to grow when we now know our economy has to grow and the Federal Reserve is going to take the opposite approach? What do we do politically? And please don't tell me I got a letter.
No, we got to wait 3 years, unfortunately, to get rid of Joe Biden.
Really? We got to wait 3 years? So you're telling me Joe Biden is responsible for having people out of work for 3 years?
Well, I just want to say one thing about the letter. It's carefully worded not to mention Donald Trump. Because, Anthony, let me ask you, when was the country doing better? Now under Joe Biden or previously under Donald Trump, and why?
When you say better, are we talking politically? Are we talking
economically?
Economically, we were doing better under 4 years of Donald Trump. I don't think it's a fair comparison because Joe Biden does not have 4 years under his record.
Well, anything else on Bidenomics that you want to talk about?
I'd just like to know what would be the answer to the question I will now ask for the third time. What do you think politically should be done to get our economy to grow? Because now our government, our executive and legislative parts of our government are in charge of getting our economy to grow, not the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve Board said our job is inflation, just like the president. The president said the same thing. Federal Reserve Board to be in charge of inflation. So what did Mr. Powell say? He said, you know what, Mr. President? You're absolutely right. We're going to hike up basis points to 75 points. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would have watched our show last week on Financial Focus University, you would have seen that I actually claimed it a week before when I said short-term rates will go being higher than long-term rates.
Let me answer your question, Anthony.
What's the political answer? What's the political answer to get people to have a job?
You want me to answer your question? Because you said it as soon as you started to talk. You said that I'm not the economic expert. You are. So if anybody's going to answer that question, it would be you. You're the economic expert. So why don't you answer your own question?
Rob, who's in charge of politics? Is it economists or legislators?
Well,
is it economists or the president? Is it economists or the governors of each state? Is it the economists or the legislative leaders of each state? Who's in charge of the tax money of the United States of America? Is it the economists or is it the government? So if the answer to every one of those questions is the latter, then I defer that question to you.
No, nobody knows. And let's move on to...
Nobody knows? I thought you were a political expert with all those degrees. See, I got degrees too. See, I got my credentials over here, being a financial advisor since 1997. I'm a business owner here since 1996. We got my wonderful college degree up there from 1988. See, I got all these credentials too. But guess what, Bob? All these credentials don't handle our tax money.
Right.
Who handles our tax money are the people you're talking about, right? You're going to talk about our governor, right? You're going to talk about the state assembly races, right? You're going to talk about the state senate races, right? They handle our money.
And speaking of that, Tony, the city council just passed the budget, which was $101 billion. Okay. You have certain members who are happy, and we have about 5 members of the, what shall we call it, the super progressive caucus that did not receive any additional monies, and they were mad about it. It's the AOC people like Tiffany Caban and a few others. Am I correct on that, Anthony?
Actually, the number 6.
Okay, I must have forgotten Charles Barron's.
I don't know who you forgot, but the number 6.
But I mean, we're in a situation where the city is, we have Sheriff Adams now. I'm going to call him Sheriff Adams because he wants to be the law mayor. Okay, so Sheriff Adams, and I'm going to say this to his face next time I see him. Sheriff Adams, you're losing you're gaining less than 1,000 rookie officers, and you're going to be losing 2,500 veteran police officers. How are you going to keep the city safe? The city is going to pot. The dirt bike riders, ATV riders, these people on bikes are just running rampant throughout the city. They're robbing people. We saw yesterday 9 people were killed. Was it 9 or 8? In the city. Pardon me, they weren't killed. 1 person was killed. 9 was shot at. Pardon me. My mistake. Okay, I'll admit I make mistakes. All right. So how are we going to, what are these less than 1,000 police officers going to be doing? Running from precinct to precinct? Anthony, I think we spoke about that last night. They're going to be part-time police officers in your precinct. They're going to be going from one precinct to another.
You mean your precinct?
Wow. Whatever.
Oh, I see. It's different. Oh, I see.
What? How do you see it?
I see it exactly the way you've described it. But again, it's a national trend. It's got nothing to do with my district or your district. It has to do with it being a national trend. Look at your mail office carrier. It's not like the old days where you had your mailbox carrier 6 days a week. You got to know him or her so well that you might even have given them something during the holidays. Those days are gone. Now on Monday and Tuesday, you got Joe. Wednesday and Thursday, you got Wendy. Friday, you got Mr. Abraham. And Saturday, you might have Mr. Universe.
Oh, so.
And guess what? Just like with college education, right? CUNY, no different. SUNY, no different. When I went to school, 80% or better of all the professors in every department and every university were full-time. You knew that after your lecture, one way or the other, you can get back with that professor for any homework assignments, for any help, for any assistance. Today, that number is now 360. 80% of every professor, including myself, is part-time. Why do the colleges do that? Of course, for budgetary reasons. What does that mean for the quality of education for the student? Well, guess what? You're paying me part-time, right? I get paid till 6 o'clock. Okay, 6:01. Goodbye. Right? So it's a national trend, right? Don't be discriminatory talking about it's happening in your district. Hello, 49 precincts. It's happening there too.
Well, there's probably, yeah, you're right, Anthony. It is. We have a new precinct commander in the 49th, and he's basically saying, well, my cops are going from one call to another. There's no preventative crime, by these police. There's no crime prevention. They're just answering calls, going from one to another. I mean, people are blaring music for hours, and the cops don't come. And when they do come, they can't do anything, they say. All right. You go to a precinct meeting and you'll hear that. I believe you live in the 52nd precinct, correct?
Say that again?
You live in the 52nd precinct.
You live in the 4-9, I live in the 5-2.
And we both live near a parkway. I live near Pelham Parkway. Anthony lives off of Marshall Parkway. And how is the barbecuing?
On your side, I have no idea, although I have heard some complaints and I have seen some smoke signals.
Right, and how is it by you? Have they gone back onto the Parkway and barbecue? I know when I drive by, I see these big tents and there's smoke.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2022 North Bronx. You don't have to go to a carnival or to Rye Beach or even Orchard Beach anymore. Just come to Marshalloo or Pelham Parkway. Feel free to bring your donkey. Feel free to bring your pool. Feel free to bring your garbage and lay it all out because everybody else is effing doing it.
Well, before we go to a break, which is going to be in a few minutes, Anthony, would you like to say anything about early voting, which begins tomorrow? Because I know that you at one time were a coordinator at a poll site. Would you like to say a few words about early voting from that end?
I'm trying to think of something good to say, but nothing is coming to me.
No, I know, because earlier I showed my Board of Elections credentials that I need to go into a poll
Bob, in regards to that, I'm so glad you got those. Credentials. Not too many people some people of our audience know that with those lacquer credentials, you've been getting into a lot of issues with the Board of Elections the last couple of years. So I'm hoping that those credentials with your other credentials will stop the
wait a minute.
you've been having
Do you mean when I walked into Tracy Towers' poll site one year and someone yelled, "He's a Republican," thinking that I was working for the Republican Party with the Republican candidate? And when I went
you've had at
and I went to the desk and showed here's my media credentials.
Yes. The problems you've had at Tracy Towers.
Right, and that person ran to the desk. Let me talk, Anthony. That person ran to the desk, who shall remain nameless, and said, "I want to see those." And I told him no, and he had the poll coordinator read them to him. And I found out that I could have had him thrown out of the poll site or arrested because he was breaking the law, not once, but 2 New York State election laws.
Bob, I wasn't there, so I can't comment.
And our beloved.
The only thing I can comment on is that I know you've had a problem there, the same problem you've had at Columbus High School, the same problem you've had at Bronx High School of Science.
No,
I'm not going to get into the specifics because I don't know who was right, who was wrong.
Tony,
what I do know is that there have been issues.
No, there haven't, Tony.
Hopefully,
the problem is, Tony, if you let me talk, Tony, if you let me talk, when I show these, I listen to what's on here. The coordinators want to see something else. They want to take pictures of this, and they're not allowed. These papers say that I am the only person who can take a picture in a poll site. Okay, and
Bob, I'm not a coordinator this year by design, but if I was, as I said to you in prior years, I would slightly disagree with you. I'm not saying that letter isn't official. I'm not saying that the contents that are on there aren't true. But if I ask to see it upon request, you have to show it to me.
Yes, and I do.
If I ask to take a picture of it, because that's part of my responsibility as a coordinator, you have no choice but to allow me to take that picture. So I'm not disputing the powers of the letter,
Tony,
but you also have to remember that the powers of the letter have to be used appropriately.
Tony, I have spoken with the Board of Elections, and they have said that I am the only person who is allowed to take a photo in there, or anyone else with these.
Well, how did you get 3? How did you get thrown out at 3 polling sites, bro?
I didn't get thrown out of 3 polling sites.
Of course you did. You just mentioned them.
That was 3 times.
Columbus High School.
No, it wasn't.
Of course, one that I'm aware of, Bronx High School of Science.
It was 3 times at the Bronx High School of Science. Okay, where the police were even called one time. And I said, "Are you going to arrest me? I want to sue the Board of Elections for that then." Okay, and the officer said, "No, you know me. We're not here to arrest you." And I showed him the letter, and he said, "It's fine. It's just the poll coordinators aren't properly trained."
So wait a minute. So you just said it happened 3 times at the Bronx High School of Science.
Yes, because the
I know one time it happened at Tracy. I know another time it happened at Columbus High School.
No, it didn't happen at Columbus.
So you're saying that
no,
5 coordinators, I'm counting them now. So you're saying that 5 coordinators that you've experienced in the last 3 years were not properly trained.
And what about, and what about the 100 others? Okay. I've been to hundreds of poll sites and no problems.
So you're saying that the coordinators aren't properly trained, all of them?
No. When somebody comes and I show, those are phony. Okay. When I call down to the Bronx Board of Elections and have to have the Democratic person apologize to me, not once, not twice, but 3 times.
You're talking textbook. I'm talking reality. Putin believes that he's still winning the war. Okay? You know why he still believes that? Because he's not on the front line. Go ask the generals that are on the front line who are winning that war.
Let's continue this.
Come on, you're telling me about a BOE executive director that will probably get fired, just like the one prior to her got fired. Let's talk about the front line, because that's where you're having the issues, the front line. What's happening in the executive chambers obviously isn't helping or hurting you.
All right, Anthony, let's take a little commercial break here and we'll continue afterwards, okay?
All right, my hair will stand up there.
Anthony, we'll go into the real politics of the races after this commercial break.
All right, the real politics.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. America Open Market, AO Market. The best digital market for humanity is a free multilingual borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form. Comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@gmail.com. AO Market, best digital marketplace for humanity. Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
Good. Welcome back. And I see my co-host is still with me. Anthony, by the way, actually the mask mandate is over, so I don't know why you're still wearing your mask, but.
Bob, I got a question to ask. You.
Go ahead.
I know that you recently had to get a new phone, because you indicated to me that the space on your old phone was dragging the phone down because of all the pictures you had on.
That's right.
So have you thought about using that AOM marketplace to sell the pictures?
To sell the pictures? No.
No?
I stated at
because I know that according to according to our last bantering, on the subject of pictures, you weren't allowed to show them on the air. So I was curious maybe if you would use that marketplace.
I have no idea what pictures you're talking about because we went through that I had no pictures. Okay, let's go into the June primary, the June 28th primary, where early voting starts tomorrow.
And hold on, Bob. Let me answer your question about the mask. Right? No, you asked me about the mask, right? Did you just ask me about the mask? Let me answer it. In the words of Mr. Fauci, follow the science.
Fine. You're going to follow Mr. Fauci, so then I expect you to get COVID in about 2 weeks.
Well, Bob, according to you, everybody's immune, so I don't have a problem.
No. Anthony, no. Only people who had COVID early, and it was the strongest strain, because the strains are getting weaker as we go.
Come on, let's hurry up with the show so I can take one of my new cigarettes.
Yeah, well, speaking of your new cigarettes.
They're the ones that are saving me from COVID, not Fauci,
Anthony,
and not the science, and not this
speaking
mask.
of that, there was an economic development committee by Community Board 11. I know I'm digressing a little, but Anthony brought up the subject. Wednesday night, it was an in-person committee meeting, and then the next night, everything else is back to video for a month. All right, a subject was brought up of opening a cannabis store in Community Board 11. I'm looking for the paper, and it was a person from Mellow Times who wants to open up a cannabis store in Community Board 11 and needs the community board's approval. I spoke with State Senator Gustavo Rivera on that, and he said, yes, it's similar to a liquor license, but the board must approve that. Okay, so where does this guy want to open up this, cannabis store? Well, we know what cannabis is, don't we, Anthony? It's marijuana.
Oh, well, why don't you share with us what it is?
It's marijuana. They try and use a fancy word, like in the Board of Education, pardon me, the Department of Education, because it sounds better. They don't use the word failing anymore for students. They're struggling. So they don't want to use a marijuana store because people were arrested for that. So let's call it a cannabis store. And it sounds a lot better. But this guy wants to open up in the Allerton area of Community Board 11. Okay, let's go into politics now, the governor's race.
Wait a minute. Did you say on Allerton Avenue?
Yes.
So you mean 50 years ago I could have went on Allerton Avenue and I could have smelled the bakery, right? I could have smelled all the bakeries.
Oh, you can still.
50 years later, now I'll be smelling all the cannabis.
Well, they don't smoke it there. It's not like Ephraim Gonzalez's cigar store. You don't smoke it there. And the man described that it enhances the neighborhood because it looks like a fancy jewelry store.
I would suggest,
let's get back to politics,
Robert, I'm not going to correct you because I don't have it in front of me, but I would suggest you do more research on these cannabis stores because you'll find some of them do have little, there's a name for them, but I can't remember the name right now, where they can do it.
Well, in New York, they're not going to. They're like jewelry.
In New York, they're not going to. It's the law.
It's not. The man said that it's like an upscale jewelry store.
Guys, this is why I got to be off and on the show because then I have to, correct my co-host.
Well, I was at the meeting. I listened to the man, and I spoke to Senator Rivera. I also looked at the law. Okay, so I think I would have a little more knowledge on it than you. But let's move on.
No, considering that's already gone through Community Board 7, and Community Board 7 has already looked at all of its parameters and the pros and cons of the program, I actually would think I have much better current knowledge on the program.
And did Community Board 7 approve it?
Community Board 7 is still examining the pros and cons of it.
And why are they examining it still? Because the official rules and regulations haven't been cemented. They're going to be done by
I would direct you to one of the candidates of the 78th Assembly District, Community Board Chair 7, Emmanuel Martinez, for any specificity to that question.
Well, we'll get into that later. All right, let's start at the governor's race. But
Bob, we should start the show next week supporting the law. So I'm going to do my best next week to support the law.
Fine. You know what, Anthony? I might take off next week, and you could run the show. How about that?
Oh, it'll be a great show, man. You know, we're going to show pictures and videotapes of Snoop Dogg and Little Kim.
All right, let's get back to business, Anthony.
And we might even show, Bob, some of the videotapes of Black China and Robert Kardashian and revenge porn.
Where did we hear that before, Anthony?
Revenge porn. Well, I don't remember where we first heard it, but I can tell you the current interpretation of it in regards to this particular case. The interpretation of it in regards to this particular case says when you take naked pictures and put them on social media for the purpose of hurting or injuring, I don't want to use the word relative. Let me use the word friend. I know the word friend is a lot more broader, but we'll use that word.
Anything else?
No, that's just the current interpretation that I believe your assemblywoman at the borough president debate, as you pointed out on the show several months ago, actually used that terminology when she was defending a comment and a question that she got in the borough president debate about her questionability with pictures on the internet.
And what was that question?
Her response being revenge porn. I wasn't at the event, as we know. I know you were. If you want to elaborate,
I wasn't at the event.
I did see the videotape afterwards. So.
Right.
There was a question that was asked, and that was her response. If you want to fill in some of the blanks, feel free to.
But what was the question that you would have to respond that to?
I'm going to paraphrase because again, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe the general question was a person had a concern. Again, this was the borough president race last year about her qualifications of being a good borough president based on these alleged allegations. And what I found a little surprising was, even though her response was, well, this is why I created the revenge porn law, what I found surprising about that response was that she didn't deny it.
Who are we talking about again?
I believe we're talking about your assemblywoman, Natalia Fernandez.
I don't consider Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez my assemblywoman. She ran for borough president.
You need to get off the show because you don't know what's going on.
She ran for borough president. Now she's running for state senate. So I think she should resign from the office of assembly and have a special election, actually, because she doesn't want to be an assemblywoman, obviously. She wants to be a borough president or state senator. And obviously, if she doesn't win the state senate race, next year she'll probably run for the city council. She does not want to be an assemblywoman. But let's get into the election day, June 28th primary. That starts tomorrow. Governor, Kathy Hochul has the backing of the New York Times. My surprise to you, again, my second surprise, is that Tom Suozzi sent out a letter. And I will read the letter. I have just received the coveted endorsement of the New York Post in the Democratic primary for governor. The Post put it straightforwardly: if you're a registered Democrat voter who wants to save New York from disaster, your obvious pick is Tom Suozzi. They also said, for what it's worth, he's a Democrat's best bet to win the general election in a year where far-left madness looks likely to earn the party a historic drubbling. Okay, so Tom Suozzi has gotten the coveted endorsement of the New York Post.
Let me give you a surprise. At the Facebook page of Northwest Bronx Democrats, it was announced at 6 a.m.
Oh?
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to go to Facebook groups, our wonderful page, Northwest Bronx Democrats, where you can get real-time info instead of 6-hour late info.
Yep, Tony. Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at something here. We talked about it earlier. Yep, you're right. Oh, the 82nd Assembly District race. let's go into the assembly races since we talked about the governor's race. Poor Jumaane Williams, maybe he'll get the New York Daily News endorsement. Lieutenant governor, well, there are three new people. One was the former.
Wait. Don't go to lieutenant governor. Let's get back on the governorship race.
We don't have much time, Anthony.
The governorship race. They had a governor's debate yesterday. You know, Kathy Hochul, let me tell you about Kathy Hochul. That woman is feisty. That woman is feisty. I like her feistiness. She actually reminds me a little bit of Mom. Or, you know, Mom's no longer with us, but she reminds me of my mom a little bit. Very feisty. She likes to throw those left jabs real hard. And I'm going to tell you what, the fact that Swazi or Jumaane really didn't have no uppercuts tells me the race is done.
Well, it looked to me, you know, when I saw her, I said, gee, what happened to her? She almost looks like Bill de Blasio, who went in as mayor with a nice full head of black hair and came out with a nice full head of gray hair. Okay? I'm sure Kathy's getting those gray hairs in the short time she's governor. But
well, look, to her credit, you're talking about a legislator that 3 years ago basically went from being in the closet. What I mean by being in the closet was nobody wanted to, you know, she was invisible, and she didn't mind being invisible. You know, as long as she was able to go to parties and shake hands and kiss babies, she was fine. But 3 years later, she had to deal with now being the governor, now dealing with COVID, and now dealing with economic problems throughout the state. So,
all right,
you know,
Anthony,
we can debate whether she's doing a good job or a bad job, but I like her gray hair.
Anthony, she dyes it black. In our little time we have left, there was a debate for the 82nd Assembly District between the three candidates, the incumbent Michael Benedetto, Al Quattlebaum, and Jonathan Soto. Okay. Have you seen the debate? It was on BronxNet.
I've seen parts of it.
Okay. Al Quattlebaum and Jonathan Soto tried their best to attack Michael Benedetto wherever they could. Al seemed to be a little more laid back. He was speaking very slow and answering his questions very slow. And Al seems to be a nice guy, but I want somebody who knows what they're talking about. Jonathan Soto was more of an attack dog, even to the end where he tried to get the last word in against Michael Benedetto. He said he's a public school parent. And that he kept repeating that. But you know what? Being a public school parent's not enough. Is he on his parent association or parent teacher association? Is he any higher? I mean, I was all the way up to the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. Okay. I was on a community board, like Benedetto said. These people haven't been involved in their community. All right. So I got to give kudos to Michael Benedetto. He may, and these people couldn't attack him like I might have, all right, because they don't have the experience, all right. Jonathan Soto might be a good.
You don't need experience to attack Benedetto. No one needs experience to attack Benedetto. Well, all you need to do is look at his record or lack thereof, right? Education. Well, if he wants to be known as the education legislator, right? If that's what he wants to be known as, well, then I got one simple question for him, which can really turn into 5, which is, why has education, the value of education, gone down 20, 30, 40% during the time he's been there? That's the only question I got to ask. Forget all that other stuff. Yeah, I'm going to attack dog here, or I do this here, or I'm going to go here. Oh, that's bullshit. Anybody that doesn't know how to handle something simple like that's simple. That's simple.
Do you know the difference in the school district? How many school districts are there in the Bronx?
You tell me.
You're saying you're the expert on education now.
That's not what I said. What I said was you can see it from the value of education. All you got to do is look at the end game when it comes to junior high schools. All you got to do is look at the end game when it comes to high school. All you got to do is look at the end game when it comes to CUNY. The CUNY value of an education today has become so watered down because people graduating from high school only have an 8th grade education. Now, Who's in charge of that in New York State? Well, Mr. Benedetto will be the first one to say, me.
No, it's the
Yes, he
governor, man.
would. Yes,
It's
he
the
would.
governor.
Stop defending your neighbor and assemblyman. Like I told you, and this is why I've decided I'm going to take this approach today. I'm going to call it real. If somebody's doing something good, I'll let you know. If they're not doing something good, I'm also let you know. I'm not going to use this show to play politics and try to get favors or any of this stuff. The value of education in New York has gone down significantly in the last 20 years. You want another proof? You want another example of proof? Look at charter schools. They weren't around 20 years ago, were there? No, you know why? Because we didn't need them. That's why.
Oh, no, Anthony, you're wrong on that.
Oh,
you had parochial schools.
The I was school chancellor 90 years ago. Please, give me a break.
Anthony, the parochial schools. How many parochial schools?
I said charter schools. I didn't say parochial schools. Catholic schools have been around forever.
Sure.
Catholic schools have been around forever.
And
I'm not talking Catholic schools. I'm talking charter schools.
The parochial schools have been closing. Okay, if you look at the shift alone here in the Bronx.
I didn't say parochial schools. Are we changing the subject again because you can't answer my question? That's fine.
Anthony, charter schools have replaced the parochial schools.
But so again, who takes responsibility for that? Oh, I do, Mr. Benedetto. I do.
The governor, the mayor. The mayor he pushed for his mayoral control. It's his responsibility. You want to complain about the schools? You'll talk to the mayor. Okay? That's it.
How long has the mayor been in charge of the schools?
The mayor has been in charge since about 20 years.
So then you're saying, so I want to be clear on what you're saying. So then you're saying we don't need Mr. Benedetto. Why do we need a state education department? Why do we need a state education chair if you're telling me that the mayor's office has been in charge of it for 20 years?
And Anthony, 20 years
Bob, answer that question. Stop flipping the script. Answer that question. If you're telling me that the mayor's office has been in charge of it for 20 years, and according to you, that would mean both Democrats, Republicans, and independents have been in charge of the schools for 20 years, then why do we need Mr. Benedetto? Why do we need a state education department?
You want me to answer you, Anthony? Do you want me to answer you?
You know why? Because they've never been in control.
Do you want me to answer you? Do you want me to answer you? During the 12 years of Michael Bloomberg, he tried to break the United Federation of Teachers. All right, he failed. And then in the 8 years of Bill de Blasio, he caved into the United Federation of Teachers. And it looks like Mayor Adams is doing the same thing. All right.
Well, then let me ask you a question. You just defended Mr. Benedetto. How much UFT money has Mr. Benedetto received?
It's not only Mr. Benedetto.
No, you said UFT. Anthony. You said, Bob, again, you can't change the subject. Your way of not answering the question is changing
Benedetto the subject. Is one of
UFT. You just said UFT was the one in charge. You just said that. So, how much money has UFT given Mr. Benedetto, which will prove he's
We would have to look that up, Anthony. I'll have that answer for you next week. All right.
Good, because the money will be so large, it will take you a week to count it.
Anthony, when a deputy chancellor was introducing policy that he couldn't understand about taking students, problem students supposedly, out of classrooms who were causing trouble, he turned it over to the UFT rep who said, we got this legislation passed in Albany. So the UFT owns Albany, okay, whether it be state
you just said the mayor's office was in charge of education for 20 years. You just said that.
Well, this is why Johnny can't read.
See the flip, flop, sideways,
Anthony.
Who has a donation check?
Anthony.
Flip, flop, sideways, Anthony. Who has a donation check? See, Bob, that's how it works, Bob.
This is why your illegitimate children all over the Bronx can't read. Because
illegitimate? I believe it's a lot more than illegitimate, but go ahead.
All those little Anthony clones that are running around, all right, can't read, like you say, because it's a fight. The union, like you say, you said you're a part-timer. Well, once the school day is out, the union goes, goodbye, I'm not staying. And I noticed for a fact the UFT rep in the school where I was a PA president said, I don't care what you guys want as long as I'm over the Tappan Zee Bridge at 3 o'clock.
How long ago was that, Robert?
What?
When were you in that position?
Don't worry about it.
Well, wait a minute. You just told the audience that, so
it's still going on.
The audience when that was.
It's still going on. Okay.
But when was that, Bob?
Nothing has changed.
Was that in the 90s, Bob, or the 80s that you just referred to?
2000.
Oh, okay. So 20 years ago, not 30 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, less than 20 years ago.
Oh, that was less than 20. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I still stayed involved in the education issues. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go into the 78. Well, we only have time left for a little bit more, Anthony. So let's finish up with the 78th Assembly District, where technically you are right now, but the assembly lines are changing. So you could be in a different assembly district in next year. So let's talk about the three candidates. I've always said that Jose Rivera is going to lose. Now, I invited George Alvarez onto the show. I was going to have lunch with him, and all of a sudden, George doesn't call me back, and then he says, oh, I can't come on the show. It seems like that anybody who is endorsed by county doesn't want to come on this show, and as a matter of fact, let me now call the Bronx Democratic County Organization and see what's wrong with them and me. Okay, let me go call them. I'll get to my contacts. Whoops, wrong phone. As you said, I have two phones. It's on the old phone number. Let's call up the Bronx Democratic County Organization and see what's wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, the views of Robert Press are not endorsed by this station.
Here we go. Bronx Dems dialing. Please check the number. Disconnected. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the views of County versus Robert Press are not endorsed by this station.
Here's a different number, a second number. Oh, they're not available. Well, that's okay.
So you called county twice. One time they hung up on you. The other time they told you they weren't available.
Right. That's okay. I'm only 2 blocks from the county office.
Yeah. So now they'll just close the door in your face.
Well, you know what I'm going to do, Anthony? I'm going to get a beach chair and sit outside the office at 6 in the morning till 6 at night. They're going to have to see me. Okay? Did you hear that, Jamal? You're going to have to see me. I'll be sitting outside from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. Okay? Every day until you meet me, Jamal Bailey. All right? Jamal Bailey said at the 49th Precinct breakfast, I'm available, come see me. Then he says, well, I got to check my schedule, Bob. And I've gone to that office 3 times and spoken to that woman 3 times, that same woman. And, I'll give him a message. So he, this is it, Jamal. That's it.
Bob, I do have to admit, I do find that a little bit unusual, only because I don't want to mention her name on air. I think that would be unfair. But I have spoken with her myself on several occasions. She seems like a wonderful woman. We have good conversations on the phone when I need her to pass a message or do me a favor. She tries within her means and her boundaries. I have not experienced her live, so I can't speak about her live, but I've never had those particular issues.
No, this is a different person, Anthony, than you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. But it seems that Mr. Jason Lately, who used to be Jamal Bailey's, State Senator Jamal Bailey's chief of staff, is now the political director of county. Even though he technically doesn't work for county, he works for a consulting company. The consulting company gets money from the county office, and that money then goes to Jason Lately. Dark money. Why? Well, he can't be on the payroll because then it would be known that he's on the payroll. So the county just pays a consultant and they pay Mr. Lately. And it looks like we're at the end of our show.
Well, then, Bob, what we have to do real quick is to tell Jason Lately and everybody watching the show, please get in touch with us so you can advertise on this show. It's cheap. wonderful. You'll win your election, and just press the subscribe button so you can see Bob and I every week turn your hair gray. Have a good one, Bob.
And
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University. America Open Market, AO Market. The best digital market for humanity is a free multilingual borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form. Comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@